Trump's court appearance has been described as an historic moment in the United States. The former president made a brief appearance at the Manhattan Criminal Court and pleaded not guilty to 34 felony charges, including falsifying business records. Trump has been railing against the indictment, calling it a political witch hunt. eNCA correspondent William Denselow is our eyes and ears in New York. He joins us now. William, we have been seeing live visuals of the former president's convoy heading from the courthouse back to the airport. We understand he will be flying back to Florida, if I'm not mistaken. Take us through today's arraignment proceedings.
Absolutely. Well, Donald Trump arrived here at about 1:30 p.m. local time. He looked at the court and threw up a fist in defiance. He didn't say anything as he entered the courthouse, and of course there were no video cameras inside the court as he heard the hearing and as the indictment was unsealed. So he heard the formal charges against him, but there were cameras in the corridors of the courthouse. He didn't choose to speak to the media, either entering or leaving the court. So the first time we're expecting to hear from Donald Trump since his arrest will be when he speaks to his supporters and to the media a little later this evening back at his home at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. But as you rightly say, we are getting now a sense of what exactly he's been charged with. As you mentioned, those 34 felony counts that Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to. We have heard from Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney. He says that they simply can't allow businesses to cover up criminal conduct. Everyone stands equal before the law. He added that Donald Trump is accused of repeatedly and fraudulently falsifying business records to conceal damaging information and unlawful activity from American voters. Of course, that's very much a reference to those alleged hush money payments paid to Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election. We have heard, though, a strong rebuttal from Donald Trump's legal team. We've heard from Joe Tacopina, who says the rule of law died in this country today.
Talk to us a little bit more about these other charges of falsifying records, specifically aimed at controlling voter perceptions ahead of the 2016 elections, because the hush payments to Stormy Daniels, they form only one part or a small part of those charges as we understand it. What about all the rest?
That's right. We're getting more information about what exactly the charges are, but they're really all seen, as far as the district attorney is concerned, attempts to really mislead the American electorate ahead of the 2016 election. Of course, it's been alleged that Donald Trump's then fixer Michael Cohen, paid $130,000 to Stormy Daniels to essentially keep quiet about their alleged affair, keeping it out of the headlines until after the elections or beyond. Of course, Donald Trump has consistently denied having an affair with the porn star or any kind of misdealings when it comes to business records. But that is really what these charges are centered around. So, of course, as we find out more information, we're expecting that we'll get that on exactly how that plays out with regards to these 34 felony counts. Also important to point out that these are all Class E felonies, which is the lowest category here in New York, but they all bring with them the maximum of up to 4 years behind bars. Important to also add that Joe Tacopina, a legal representative for Donald Trump, has said that they are planning to file a motion to dismiss these charges.
Now, the timing of these charges is obviously interesting because of next year's elections. What's been the reaction from the US media and the public at large now that these charges are out in the open, and given that they are specifically linked to controlling voter perceptions, which plays into very much the sort of sentiment at the moment with the elections just around the corner?
Well, essentially, many people really knew roughly what these charges would be loosely revolved around, that it was in connection to the alleged hush money payments to Stormy Daniels ahead of the election. So for a long, long time now, we've really seen the entrenchment of both sides, those that stand with the former president and those that criticise him, very much becoming even stronger. And that really played out in front of the courthouse a little earlier during proceedings. Even before Donald Trump arrived, we saw a small group, a few hundred of Donald Trump's supporters outside the courtyard, including some prominent Republican lawmakers, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, in support of the former president, saying that the justice system has been weaponized, Donald Trump has done nothing wrong, and that this simply is an attempt from the Democrats to hurt Donald Trump ahead of the 2024 elections. The message, though, from Democrats is that no one is above the law, and that the Justice Department, which has been investigating this case, and the District Attorney has been investigating this case for a long, long time now, years in fact, should be allowed to continue with their process without any kind of interference. Now, we've heard from Democrats saying that no one is above the law. Joe Tacopina, Donald Trump's lawyer, says that this case is an example of Donald Trump being treated below the law.
Some of those supporters of Donald Trump supporting very much with a show of favour from their wallets. $7 million within 3 days. Is that credible information?
It's information from Donald Trump's campaign team, and there's been some furious campaigning on social media from Donald Trump's team. We've already seen, just moments after Donald Trump was really arriving in court, pictures of a T-shirt that supporters could buy of a mock-up of a Donald Trump mugshot as a way of getting supporters to buy it to further gain campaign funding. So clearly the evidence is out there that this is going to be used by Donald Trump and his team to try and whip up his support base, to try and whip up revenue. And you mentioned the figures, over $5 million gathered in 48 hours after that indictment was released on last Thursday. In 48 hours, $7 million since then, as you rightly say. So if that figure is to be believed, certainly strong evidence that Donald Trump supporters are certainly acting with their wallets.
What happens next in this process?
It's expected to be a long, drawn-out process. Of course, many legal fights are with plenty of back and forth, but of course, as a case becomes even more high-profile, the more convoluted it can often become. And considering the fact that this case is utterly unprecedented, we can expect a lot of legal wranglings, legal backs and forth, and something that could potentially stretch out for a number of months, if not into years, before we might see it reach a conclusion. Of course, we know that Donald Trump will head to Florida. He is expected to make remarks later on Tuesday. And as we await to hear from Alvin Bragg himself, the Manhattan District Attorney, we might get some further ideas. But essentially now it'll go over to Donald Trump's legal team, the prosecutor's office, to go back and forth, potentially going through the ins and outs of the case. As mentioned, Joe Tacopina has said that there will likely be a motion to dismiss, so that will then have to be taken into consideration by the judge. Of course, if he moves to dismiss, then this could conceivably go away in a matter of months. If not, then perhaps it could be into next year that we could be talking about this reaching a trial. But of course, that is still a long way off. This is just the first step in what could be a very long legal road for Donald Trump.
Thank you so much for that update. That was eNCA correspondent William Denselow coming to us from New York as the arraignment proceedings for former President Donald Trump have drawn to a close. And we saw the president's convoy heading to the airport where he will return to Florida. And no doubt lots of people were keeping their eyes out for that address by Donald Trump later this evening from Mar-a-Lago.